Good morning, Bob. It's so great to be back with you again and to talk about leadership development. And today we are going to talk in our second chapter of Think and Grow Rich. And Bob, isn't this interesting times he was living in when he wrote this book, right?
Yeah, it is. And I keep thinking about that as I'm reading. There's a ton of good information in here, but this was published in 1937. And I think we have to, as I go through it anyway, that's a long time ago. Napoleon Hill's legacy is a little bit controversial. And I didn't realize that until I started studying a little bit more about him as an individual and the impact that he's had, because this book has influenced, countless thousands of people for some, more than 8 decades, a really long time. And so as I've studied a little bit more about his life, and I looked a bunch of things up about Napoleon Hill. So there's a little controversy there, kind of an interesting fellow for sure. But the principles, the concepts, they work. And so as I read this book, Judy, I've taken a lot of time to just sort of replace different words, because I've never really wanted to grow rich. That's just a Bob thing. For me, lifestyle has always had more to do. A simple lifestyle has been more important to me than growing rich, and being able to live in, Western Montana and up here in North Idaho has always been more important to me than having a lot of money. It's just, it's just a Bob thing, I think. But in any event, the book is really fun to read. And it was Ted Earl who suggested, let's jump into Napoleon Hill for a little while. And I'm glad he suggested that. I've enjoyed this, Judy, and there've been some great stories. And so let's just a little quick review of last time. Okay. Do you mind jumping on that?
Yeah. Let's just talk about what we talked about last week, which really was about your why and knowing your why. And, it really does start with a dream and knowing your why. And then today we're going to get into more of that and how to start making it into reality. But when you think of some of the people that Napoleon Hill talked about in his book, like Edwin Barnes, he was really a nothing, a nobody, that decided that he was going to go in partnership with Thomas Edison. He admired the man. He loved what he was doing, and he decided he was going to become a partner. Now, he didn't know him. He didn't work with him. He didn't live by him, but he changed his life because of his dream and because of his why. And eventually he did become a partner with Thomas Edison. It did take a long time, and it was a little bit different than he had originally had intended, but he did become a partner. And then we want to talk about the 3 feet from gold, quitting before you get to the goal. And that really reminds me of network marketing, because there's so many people that says, yes, I'm going to do network marketing for 6 months or a year or however long. And if it doesn't work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to something else, because then I will have proven that I tried it and I failed. But if you are 3 feet from gold, if that vein has stopped, that gold vein has stopped because of a fault line, because of something got in the way, that gold is just within reach, 3 feet away. But unless you start looking and not giving up, you will miss that vein of gold. And the same thing in network marketing. You just have to stick with it if you know your why.
It's so true. Think about that. That's an arm's length away, basically. When I stretch my arms out from tip to tip, it's about the same distance as how tall I am. I'm 6'2", so it's 3 feet away. It's an arm's length. It made me think about I have a nephew. His name is Cade Cross. And when Cade was 8 years old, Bonnie's dad, his grandpa, took him to an air show, with helicopters and airplanes and that. He's a little tiny guy, little 8-year-old. He's got a twin sister, cute little kid. And he saw this Apache helicopter and he was just like fascinated. So Grandpa Jim put him on the seat of that helicopter and took his picture. Okay. Little 8-year-old sitting in that helicopter. That day at that air show, that little 8-year-old boy, Cade Cross, said to Grandpa, someday I'm going to be a helicopter pilot. Now you fast forward that to today, and Cade is a helicopter pilot with the Air National Guard. About 5 years ago, something like that, 4 or 5 years ago, he was at an airfield in Georgia on a military base. He's looking at these old helicopters and he saw a helicopter. It was the exact same helicopter he sat in when he was an 8-year-old little boy, the same numbers and stuff on it. Unbelievable. Climbed up on that seat, got another picture, and it's been posted now around the world. This little 8-year-old boy in that helicopter, and here's Cade as a grown man, as a helicopter pilot, sitting in that same helicopter. That's where that desire, that motivation, that it set that in that little boy's mind what he wanted to do. And here we are all these years later. He's up in Alaska as a helicopter pilot now. He runs crews out to the Aleutian Islands, and they do research and archaeological work for trying to find World War II things that are still out there on those islands. Amazing. The Napoleon Hill made a statement, and I'm going to read it. It's just written like somebody from 1930 in the 30s would say, but I want to read it. He says, our brains become magnetized with the dominating thoughts which we hold in our minds, and by means which no man is familiar. These magnets attract to us the forces, the people, the circumstances of life, which harmonize with the nature of our dominating thoughts. Now that's a big old mouthful. That's a 1930s way of talking about something as simple as an abundance mindset or the power of positive thinking, right? It's the same thing. It's just written differently because this is from back in the 30s. The point being that the things we think about, the motivation, the way our minds work, we attract. The power of an abundance mentality just simply attracts abundance. I mean, I'm convinced of it, Judy. I've watched that my whole life. So anyway, for what it's worth, I think that's really interesting. Go ahead.
That's so true, Bob. And with the training that I've been doing lately, actually is looking at frequencies. So everything in life has an energy. Those energies contain frequencies. And when those frequencies align, that's when we have that abundance mindset and that be able to attract like to like, because it is the same frequency. So it is about desire, but it's even more than that, right? It's about burning desire. And I love this story. I love this story that Napoleon did, Bob.
Well, yeah. So, I'm not sure that it's true, but I like
it though.
What he's talking about here, you guys, is about this a group of military people who arrived at this place, and they're outnumbered. They know they're outnumbered. They've got this horrendous battle that they have to face, and they get off the boats. They're on the shore, and the commander has their ships burned, and says to his men, "There's no way back. So either we win or we die. That's it, So what do you think? That really is a burning desire. I still think it's a bit of a stretch, but I think it's a pretty powerful story, Judy.
Well, it really is. And just to think of the root of many of the phrases that we say and think about. So I'm thinking, Bob, there's truth in that statement. And look, there's a picture.
Well, there's a picture. There you go. So it must be true.
It must be true. But when we're talking about positive thinking, what happened here? When we talked about positive thinking, you really want to look at that's the wrong people.
Yeah, go back one.
Yeah, when you talk about positive thinking, there's also the story. So in the last week, I've been doing a lot of shopping. I must admit, a lot of shopping. I'm filling a house. I have a little list. It's called Fill the House. And I'm filling the house, an empty house, and I have to completely fill it for people to live in it. So that's a lot of shopping. And so that reminded me of the story that Napoleon Hill actually spoke about in the book about Marshall Field.
Right.
And he was an amazing guy. Marshall Field was a merchant in downtown Chicago, along with many, many merchants in downtown Chicago. And what happened? Oh my gosh, this is another fire story. So anyway, Chicago burned to the ground, and all the merchants got together afterwards, and they said, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We have no stores left. And so everybody left except for one person. And I guess Marshall Field had a burning desire because he stayed in Chicago. He rebuilt the store. And if you look downtown, I think it's, I don't know, where is it? State in Michigan or something. There's a store, the store that he built back after the fire. And Marshall Field became a very successful merchant. He was a rich man in many, many ways, but definitely monetarily, Marshall Field was rich because he stayed, and through his burning desire, he decided he was going to rebuild and continue to support Chicago and be a fantastic store owner and resident of the city.
Yeah, it's a great story. But a man with vision, and he had enough of a desire in his heart, and he knew that what he was doing was the right thing to do. He just made it happen. It would have been easy for him to have escaped. You know, that when they say that when the ship is sinking, the first thing to leave the ship are the bilge rats, you know, and he was not one of those bilge rats. He stayed and was successful. I think it's awesome. Yeah. Really is a great story. So, well, and it applies to all of us. For example, with my Synergy business several years ago, I was team leader. I had just a tremendous downline, really moving along with my Synergy business. My strong lead was huge, and it was really awesome. And then we had a major player in the company who kind of went rogue, if you will, and he completely dismantled my downline in the process. It was hard to take, to be honest with you. It was devastating. I mean, I lost a ton of money and all my downline. I mean, I just was hanging on by a thread. It would have been really easy at that juncture for me to just have turned around and walked away. It was one of those kinds of things. And I was getting older, and I moved and came back to my farm operation. But, you know, it was not the right thing to do. I haven't built back up to where I was before, but I haven't left. I've stuck with this through the years, and I love it. And I'm still glad to be here. It's a great company, and Synergy Worldwide is just awesome. And it's been fun to watch the company grow too, because the whole company felt the impact of this individual's nefarious actions. The whole company felt it, but the company pulled it right back together, and it's done great. So, but let's talk about these steps that Napoleon Hill talks about, and again, we're going to kind of try to put these into a perspective of the 21st century, not necessarily 1937. But as I studied through this, Judy, I kept thinking to myself, this is Stephen Covey right here. Begin with the end in mind. Do you get that same feeling when you read these steps?
Not only that, but I'm thinking of the SMART goals, right? Yeah. They all go together, I think. And he's got a different way of saying it, but it's basically, it's goal setting, and it's starting at the beginning and really visualizing the end and going through this process.
When you stop and think about every self-help book, every motivational speaker that you hear and have for years, they all basically come back to these original concepts, because this is a long time ago. This is more than 80 years ago when he came up with this information. And the application of it for every motivational speaker and self-help person, it all comes into play. Know the end result. Again, Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind. That is so powerful. That's my nephew, Cade Cross, 8 years old. This is what I want to do, and focused his life. He's a really neat guy, and he's really smart. Air traffic controller, helicopter pilot. You got to be sharp, to be able to do those things. But he began that quest, knowing where he was going to go. And then, what are you willing to do to get there? Judy, that's key, right?
It is key. I mean, back to going into my house purchase, I knew that it was going to take a lot of focus and a lot of time away from my regular business and my house in Illinois. And so before we even decided to start looking, we had to know, were we willing to spend the time and the money to get the result that we wanted to get before making the purchase. It just was so important to us, knowing what we were getting into ourselves into. Sort of, there's always those surprises, but you really want to know what you are willing to do. And if it's more than you expected, are you willing to go the distance?
Yeah, you get a curve or two thrown at you in the process of that, and that's what life is all about. You're gonna run into a wall from time to time, and again, that's just a part of building any kind of a business. It's just a part of life. Choose a completion date. That's such a major part of this as well. Do something here. You need to know.
And it works just as much for little goals as for big goals, right? So when we're looking at these practical steps, we have to remember that this is not only our vision, but when we are breaking down our vision, you still have to do these steps, whether it's something for the week or the month or the year or the decade. These steps will be so very important to complete.
They are. I've been building a small home for my sister, just kind of north of my house here on the farm. And those completion dates are really important. I've had to meet certain completion dates to get the inspections done. They had to inspect the footings when we originally squared up and poured the footings, and then they wanted to inspect the foundation walls. They wanted to inspect the nail pattern on the sheeting, on the framing. They wanted to inspect the nail pattern on the sheetrock, the plumbing, the wiring, everything. There had to be a completion date. It just goes back to the fact that if you're going to get something done, you're going to get it completed, having a goal and a timeline is really important.
And really I think the first 3 steps that we're talking about really are talking about burning desire.
Yeah, they are.
You really have to know what you're willing to do, what you want, and how long it's going to take you before you can do the next step.
So we create a plan and we write it out. How many times have we spoken about the importance of having a mission statement, writing things down? And, I'm the world's greatest when it comes to making up little lists and things of that nature. I always have been. I live off of a calendar and my notes, but it makes a huge difference at the end of the day. Have that plan written out. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to get there. And in our Synergy world, Judy, with Dan Hammer's focus, the Saturday webinars, the Monday morning phone calls, we have a plan. And part of that plan is to keep us all together, keep us motivated, keep us moving forward. Listening on Monday mornings to, for example, next Monday, Dan Higginson, the founder of the company, is going to be on the call with us on Monday morning. And we do these things as part of our plan to keep us all together and to keep moving and being inspired. That's part of our plan. But writing it out and then, reading it twice daily, visualizing. As soon as I read that and I was studying through this stuff, I thought of David Munoz and the affirmations that he uses, the way he in the morning gets up and he reads through a list of these affirmations. That's just such positive thinking. Again, it gets back to abundance mindset, desire, positive thinking, and it makes a huge difference in our lives. I made a little note too, Judy. When I had my company in Montana, my partner, my business partner, and we bought that company from his dad, and the business was falling apart. It was not. It just wasn't good. I mean, it was created. It was the bones were there, but it was not great. And my partner and I, Merlin Tolman and I, bought his dad out, and we rebuilt the company completely. I mean, I built a store on it. We had an old-fashioned meat market up in the front with service counters, and we did all kinds of things. We rewired the place, we replumbed it, we did all kinds of stuff over the next few years. But his dad, old grandpa, was the meanest, orneriest, most negative guy. He never said a kind word. And he used to say to me, "You're just a dreamer." I bet he said that to me 1,000 times. "You're just a dreamer." And I would think to myself, I'm going to dream a dream twice my size. I told a young couple just yesterday that came to our place, and we're looking around at the things we've done here. And I said to this young man, Seth, never stop dreaming. Because he looked at all the things we're doing to be self-reliant and living out in the country. I said, Seth, never stop dreaming. And I mean, it created an instant bond with a young man I'd only met one time, but he got the drift. So we need to be dreamers. We need to be able to visualize what it is, where we want to go, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, and for some people, it works to do it even more than twice a day. So I have had clients that have taken sticky notes and put their dreams inside their cabinets, inside their refrigerator, on their car visor. So as they were going out and about throughout the day, their dream was, it was either a picture, maybe it was a word, but it was that vision of what they wanted to accomplish. And it reminded them all the time, so that as they're drifting throughout the day, as some of us do, other things happen.
Yeah.
It brings us back to that place of being centered again.
It's just so important to remember too that it's a-okay to be successful. I mean, that's the American dream. Sometimes we look around us, and I know there are people in my life who I think take a little bit of joy in other people's failures. That's always bothered me. I think that if you're well balanced, if you're a good human being, you recognize that success requires no apologies. It's okay to be successful. We want you to be successful. We want everyone in Synergy to be successful. Determine what that level of success means to you. In my world, and seriously, the success level has never been about how much money I have. I'm 70 years old. I don't give a rip about it. Just never have. As long as we're happy and the kids were happy and healthy and strong, and we were doing the things that we did as a family, that was good. Success requires no apologies. I just believe that with all of my heart. Judy?
And it really is about being rich in spirit. And I love this story about Napoleon Hill, because I think this is the basis for the book. It's really the basis for the book. And I did not know this background about Napoleon Hill before I read this chapter, that his son, Brian, was born without any ability to hear. He didn't even have the interior workings of an eardrum. And Napoleon Hill believed that he would be able to hear and talk. And he didn't know how. He didn't know how it would work when Brian was born, but he believed it. He had a burning desire that this would happen. And throughout the years, things happened where he was able to hear. He wasn't able to hear words at first, but if Napoleon would speak against his neck and talk against his neck, Brian could feel the words. And eventually, Brian could hear the words. The doctors didn't know how it happened because he didn't have the right parts in his body. But eventually, Brian was able to speak. He was able to hear, and he dedicated his life to helping children who did not hear to be able to use some of the ways that were discovered to help Brian hear. Just such a heartwarming story.
It's awesome. Remember the part when he was a little boy and he went out and, was it newspapers he was selling? I think he sold newspapers. Was that what it was? And totally on his own. This little kid, just, his mom's like, oh, the poor little guy's out on the street. And his dad's going, nah, he's just brilliant. The kid's strong and smart and he's going to make a success in his life and he's driven and all this. And mom's thinking, oh, he's a poor little deaf kid, people are going to be mean to him. And his dad's going, no, it's not. That's not it at all. He's powerful. And it's a great read. I was not aware of that either.
And I'd read the book before and I don't remember. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
And this time it just touched me so much.
It's a long chapter too. There's a lot of information in there about how he did what he did with his son. But
yes.
But
and we don't have a whole lot of. There's so many great stories. John Bunyan went to jail for his beliefs, right? He was a preacher and they wouldn't let him preach. He went to jail for 12 years. There's so many people on the bottom here. I don't know. Are there any stories do you want to share, Bob, or did you want to start closing it up?
Yeah, we're kind of running out of time just a little bit, but all of these individuals, look at the names that are on there and the things that they went through and the experiences they had in the course of their lives, but it turned out to be extremely successful. We have a young man here, a friend of ours, who was had a desire to be to play the bagpipes. He's just a little tiny kid, cute as heck, and bagpipes. Seriously, he's like 8 years old, right? Well, his mom and dad found a set of bagpipes like on Facebook Marketplace or something like that, and they went and bought them for him. It turns out they were really great bagpipes. The lady selling them didn't know that. Well, anyway, this little boy, he gets these bagpipes, and there's a bagpipe band group here in this area, and he hooked up with them as a little boy, and so they let him come and play. Well, today, now he's a junior in high school. He's a really good athlete, but he's an incredible bagpipe player. And every year that group has a big dinner in memory of Robert Burns, the Scottish poet. And they've invited us and we've gone before. They serve haggis, which is, you don't see a lot of Scottish restaurants around.
Not in North Idaho anyway.
No, not so much, but it's just a fun. And there's these songs that they play with their bagpipes and a dance and a presentation of the haggis and gracious, but so fun. But all that because of the writings of the poet Robert Burns. All of these people, great stories, Judy, just fun stuff.
And here's a quote that is another great quote by Napoleon Hill. The greatest achievement was at first and for a time but a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of reality. Isn't that amazing? Beautiful.
And it's true. That's it. That's what happens.
It really is about, it's really about being able to dream and then knowing the why behind it. And now the burning desire to continue even when it is. But you know what, Bob? I found another quote yesterday when I was shopping, and I would like to read it.
All right.
It says, you can fool some of the people all of the time, and you can fool all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool Bob.
Oh my goodness. Oh my, can you show that to Bonnie, please? Can we put that on our refrigerator?
It just made me think of you.
Oh, gracious, that's too funny. Well, thank you so much, Judy. Does anybody have a comment or a question before we close this morning?
Shopping at Bob's Furniture?
I was not. I was not.
No,
Bob,
it's just stark
Bob,
reality, right?
It's
Yeah,
just,
just so you know, Bob, there is a guy named Bob who has a furniture store named Bob, and it's a big chain throughout the Midwest and the East Coast.
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, Bob's Furniture. Not here in Florida, though. So,
I'll be darned. Well, I always thought Bob was just an acronym for Beast of Burden. Oh, brother.
and any other questions or comments before we say goodbye?
Well, thank you
Donald.
all.
Oh,
It's
go ahead.
Donald.
Yes, Donald.
A very good presentation today. And Bob, we share a similar story about my business. There was this individual, he would always come to me with his ideas of networking, and then I introduced him to Synergy. And, you know, wiped me out because he took, you know, my leg, his leg and all that, but I stayed in. So thanks for that memory, Bob.
Well, thank you for your tenacity and for your vision, Donald. Seriously. And
Thank you.
someday we all need to be able to get together again for some kind of a synergy meeting. Donald, it's been so many years since we've seen each other. Wouldn't that be great to be able to get together and they're in Utah again and have a synergy event?
I really look forward to something like that, Bob.
Yeah, me too.
And Dan. And this time we have Judy and David along.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Judy, just keep on spending that money, girl.
I'm getting really good at it. Getting really good at it.
That's great.
You know
Good
what?
for you.
I worked hard for it, so I might as well just share it.
Exactly. Have fun.
Yep.
You're going to be very successful. I know you are. It's going to be great.
Thanks. Thanks.
Good,
Have
good.
fun.
Thanks, everybody. So Monday morning, Dan Higginson's going to be on the call with us. Be fun to hear Dan. All righty. That's it for me.
Bob, would you please share the telephone number again, please?
Yeah. You got your pencil ready?
I'm ready.
The number is 667
Uh-huh.
770
770.
1426.
Okay.
And the code is 418852, and then the pound sign.
Okay. Just to repeat that, the code is 418852 and the pound sign,
Correct.
and the number 667 770 1426.
Correct.
And that
Okay.
works every Monday, right, Bob?
Every Monday morning. Yeah, 7:30 Mountain Time. So however
Okay.
that works for you guys.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Everybody have a great day. Love you all. See you
Have a
later.
great weekend.